The second step in cellular respiration, called the Krebs cycle, picks up where glycolysis left off. Recall that in glycolysis, glucose is split into two molecules of pyruvate. Note that these two pyruvate molecules retain the original 6 carbon atoms from glucose, as well as most of glucose energy. Before the Krebs cycle can begin, the pyruvate molecules must be transported from the cytoplasm, where glycolysis occurs, into the mitochondria, where the Krebs cycle takes place. To prepare for the Krebs cycle, pyruvate is modified in 3 quick steps involving NAD+ and another molecule called coenzyme A. In one of these modifications, carbon dioxide is released from pyruvate and eventually exhaled from the body. In the other modifications, the 2-carbon molecule that remains is attached to coenzyme A, while a proton, also called a hydrogen ion, and high-energy electrons are donated to NAD+, yielding the high-energy electron carrier NADH. The new molecule is called acetyl-CoA. Because 2 pyruvate molecules emerge from glycolysis, 2 acetyl-CoA molecules and 2 NADH are now formed. Note that 2 of the 6 carbon atoms from glucose are now in the form of 2 carbon dioxide molecules. Acetyl-CoA enters a Krebs cycle where the remaining 4 carbon atoms that originated from glucose will soon be released as carbon dioxide. In the first step of this pathway, acetyl-CoA combines with water and a molecule called oxaloacetate. The first outcome of the Krebs cycle is the production of a molecule with 6 carbon atoms, 4 from oxaloacetate and 2 that originated from glucose. This 6-carbon molecule is rearranged by the removal and then the addition of water. Another important outcome of the Krebs cycle occurs next, when the molecule is stripped of 2 molecules of carbon dioxide which are exhaled. At the same time, high-energy electrons and protons are donated to molecules of NAD+, creating NADH molecules. What is the difference between NAD+ and NADH? NAD+ has lost a proton and has a positive charge. NADH has gained electrons and a proton. NAD+ has gained a proton and a positive charge. Or NADH has lost electrons but gained a proton. And the correct answer is NADH has gained electrons and a proton. Another important outcome of the Krebs cycle occurs in the next reaction, which draws energy from the remaining molecule to join inorganic phosphate and ADP into a molecule of ATP. In addition to NAD+, another molecule called FAD plays a role as a high-energy electron carrier. The 4-carbon molecule donates protons and high-energy electrons to these carriers. The molecule then becomes slightly rearranged by addition of water, after which more electrons and the protons join with NAD+ to form NADH. The final outcome of the Krebs cycle is the reformation of the cycle's starting molecule, oxaloacetate. The entire cycle occurs again with the second acetyl-CoA molecule. As the second round continues, more NADH, more carbon dioxide, more ATP, and more FADH2 molecules result. If these molecules are added to those made from the preparation reactions, we can see that all 6 of the carbon atoms from the glucose have been released in the form of carbon dioxide. After the Krebs cycle, all of the carbon atoms from the original glucose molecule are taken into NADH, taken into ATP, released as carbon dioxide, or recycled back to glycolysis. And the correct answer is released as carbon dioxide. Although a small amount of ATP has been formed in the Krebs cycle, it is the NADH and FADH2 molecules that represent the most energy for the cell. These electron carriers enter the next phase of cellular respiration, called the electron transport chain. NADH and FADH2 molecules must give up their extra electrons to the electron transport chain so that they may revert back to NAD plus and FAD and help in the Krebs cycle again. The electron transport chain uses the energy from the electrons to produce a large amount of ATP molecules. Note that the electron transport chain absolutely requires oxygen to operate. Because the Krebs cycle relies on a functioning electron transport chain to accept electrons from NADH to FADH2, the Krebs cycle will shut down along with the electron transport chain if oxygen disappears. What is the function of NADH? To provide energy for glycolysis, to carry electrons from a glucose molecule to ATP, to carry electrons from a glucose molecule to the electron transport chain, or to provide energy for the breakdown of a glucose molecule. And the correct answer is to carry electrons from a glucose molecule to the electron transport chain. Why does the Krebs cycle only operate in the presence of oxygen? Because oxygen must combine with carbon to form carbon dioxide. Because oxygen allows the electron transport chain to receive electrons from NADH and FADH2, recycling NAD plus and FAD back to the Krebs cycle. Because oxygen accepts the ATP from glycolysis so that it can be recycled. Or because oxygen is added in the form of water to the Krebs cycle. The correct answer is because oxygen allows the electron transport chain to receive electrons from NADH and FADH2, recycling NAD plus and FAD back to the Krebs cycle. What would occur if NAD plus were not regenerated for the Krebs cycle? The future breakdown of pyruvate in the Krebs cycle would stop because there would be no place for the high energy electrons to go. The pyruvate would be recycled back to glycolysis to form glucose again. Glucose would accept the high energy electrons and form water, or the cycle would continue until the NAD plus was again available. And the correct answer is the further breakdown of pyruvate in the Krebs cycle would stop because there would be no place for the high energy electrons to go. Aerobic training can cause our bodies to produce more mitochondria in muscle cells. Why might this be beneficial? An increase in mitochondria means that the cell has more cellular machinery to perform the Krebs cycle and the electron transport chain. Because so much ATP is produced in the electron transport chain, such an increase in mitochondria can provide the cell with more energy to sustain physical activity, provided oxygen is available. Why is an increase in the number of mitochondria beneficial for aerobic exercise? Because the cell can release more carbon dioxide, because the cell can perform more glycolysis, because the cell could harvest more energy from glucose, or because the cell would need more oxygen to function. And the correct answer is because the cell could harvest more energy from glucose.